Junior coal miner Wescoal posted a loss of 43.7 million rand from a profit of 5.71 million rand in the previous financial year. The mining division achieved a revenue of 242.8 million rand on the back of 967,000 tons of coal mined, which it supplied 885,000 tons to power utility Eskom. Profits were severely affected by the write-offs, resulting in an operating loss of 10.7 million rand and a headline loss of 36.1 million rand for the division.
Market cap for Wescoal, 120 million. Price earnings -6 because they went into loss. No dividend being paid there. Tshepo, let's come to you first. This is a company which a year ago looked really good. Things were going very nice, and a number of analysts who cover the small cap space had buys on it. And this has just been a year of wheels falling off left, right and centre.
It has, and thankfully we didn't buy the stock a year ago. I think rightfully so on a valuation perspective, it actually looked pretty decent. The numbers looked good enough to take a punt. Our concern on the stock was on some of the quality measures, and how we assess quality is factors like your change in return on equity, your leverage, and amongst other factors. So that was our key concern. It highlights, I guess, also the key risk, and we've learned from some tough experiences over the last few years of investing in the junior miners. I think you really need to kick the tires and have a strong conviction in terms of your positions, because you can get hurt.
Junior miners, sure. Junior coal miners. I mean, I can rattle off a list almost as long as my arm of junior coal miners. All of them. I mean, Sintula having problems. Coal of Africa finding it a whole lot tougher out there. I mean, the big guys are doing okay, but the junior guy, is it coal? Is it industry? Is it just junior mining, as you broadly said?
I think, broadly speaking, junior miners have difficult periods. So you see quite a bit of volatility in terms of their profile. They either can't stop printing money, or they have a shocker in terms of
results. They can't stop spending it.
Yeah. So I think you really don't have an in-between. You don't have a junior miner that's doing okay. They're either doing shockingly or doing very well.
Well, we know that one of the reasons that the company did come under pressure over this last financial period is because of reduction in production and also increased costs, flooding being a very big issue. Do you think that they can overcome these issues?
Yes, but just getting back to the role of a junior miner, you know, a lot of this happens because you'll see that even when they had a good year last year, they made 5 million rand profit. The margins are very tight, and that's traditional of the junior miners, because they typically don't have the same sort of geological assets as the bigger miners do, and they don't have the economies of scale. So those margins are very tight. And that leads to what happened this year when Wescoal reported. They pointed to the fourth quarter, lots of rainfall. They had flooding in the one operation, and that led to a complete wipeout in their results. So you just see that the tighter margins that these juniors typically have to work with.
So there's no room for mistakes, essentially, yeah, even if it's coming through from environmental factors.
Exactly, and this is against an environment where we've had Eskom reporting in the coal trans, Eskom reporting recently that they see shortfalls in the supply of coal for their new coal mines, their new electricity production. So it's a very positive economic backdrop or macroeconomic backdrop for coal producers. But you then point to the question, well, why are all the juniors battling so much?
I hear your point as well. I mean, if Goldfields has a flooded mine, it's one. They've got dozens. You mentioned Eskom there, and all of the mining guys, Trumpet Eskom, we had Keaton as well. They've got a 10-year license to sell 20 million tons a year. These guys did almost 1 million tons. Is Eskom that exciting? Yes, it's a flow of coal. It's a low-grade coal. It's probably a very low margin.
It is, and they're certainly pricing down on the juniors that are supplying them, because even though, and we've seen Wescoal came out recently in an article in Mining Weekly, being very optimistic about domestic coal producers or domestic coal suppliers. So they're obviously very tight on the margins, and what was also disappointing for me is that almost across the board they had problems in their mining operation, they had problems in their washing operation, they're selling the Blesbroek-Laagte washing factory, and one of their acquisitions a few years ago was also written down. So across the board it's been pretty depressing.
Tshepo, I got to say, hats off to them. They bit the bullet and they wrote down. Now, they had impairments left, right and centre, and that's not a nice thing to see, particularly if you're a shareholder, but it's saying, you know what, let's not try and carry it, let's clean this balance sheet and maybe come back next year with a bit of a better looking balance sheet.
I like to see that. I like to see a management team that doesn't ease it into it. So you've taken one big hit here.
Take it on the chin and try and move on.
And to be fair, the share prices reflected that. So I think that's a definite positive for management.
Well, Candice Colliery only able to contribute 2 months of revenue, and Ilan Spruit, a great asset essentially, and walking away. They're also trading under cautionary though at this point in time.
Yes, we understand that they're about to buy another coal project. As to what the quality in terms of the pricing on that, I'm not too sure. So I don't really have a view on what that's going to bring to the table. But you could argue that they've just had everything bad happen at once. And
it didn't rain, it poured, literally.
Yeah. And you'd be expecting them to have a better year next year. But it's problems across the board, so it doesn't make me too confident.
I hear what you say, but back to what I said to Tshepo, I like the management. They took it on the chin. I mean, Ilan Spruit, okay, they were trumpeting it as a great asset, etc. They decided the numbers didn't add up. They just walked away. I can't help thinking that there are other miners out there, and I'm not, no names come to mind, but in the space who would carry on scratching and carry on promising and carry on and never actually deliver. These guys took it on the chin and said, you know what, a year ago it was a great asset. We can't make it work. We're going to move on and write down.
Well, it could also be, with the psychology of some management teams, we call it the big bath. When something big goes wrong, then you just decide to put all the bad news through the market, and it could be a case of that. So, yes, I guess they have been upfront. There's not much. They've been pretty forward with all those things, pretty upfront and transparent with cleaning everything out now. But I'm still not convinced on their ability going forward.
And I also read the article that you were alluding to, that prospects for coal junior miners in South Africa are pretty good. We know that they're going to be increasing capacity when it comes to Transnet. A lot of plans afoot there. But the question is, can the junior coal miners actually ramp up production to deal with the excess capacity that is going to be offered to them? Tshepo.
I'd like to hope so. I think there's, again, the macroeconomic environment is conducive to it. So even Eskom money, even though it's on low margins, it's money in the bank. So I think from that perspective, you'd like to, you'd like to believe that they'd be able to, and it's really a function of the different management teams and whether they're able to tap into it.
I mean, we're talking about low margins here. Do you think it's the issue lies with the low margins? Do you think it lies with the assets? You alluded to management. Is it a combination of all three?
Again, I think on the junior miner level, I'd agree with my colleague here that it is really because they're so small and profits are so small, their scope for taking economic hit from even environmental pressures is limited. So because of that, they're naturally going to be very volatile.
So you did mention that you've been burnt before, junior miners.
Yes.
Wescoal, hot or not for you?
Not hot.
Not hot for me, no.
Not hot. I admire management. I think they did the right thing, etc., etc. Not hot. It bothers me that their website's disappeared, just gone, now owned by some strange person, etc. It's a stock I want to see in a year's time. Let's see how they use this better-looking balance.
What would you be advising for those currently holding Wescoal?
Look, if you've held it all this way, you've probably taken the pain. It's too late to panic now. I mean, you've taken the pain. I think what they were very much implying in this set of results is the bad news is behind them. The problem with turnaround stocks is, I perhaps old school, I don't know what you guys think, I want to see some turnaround first. I don't
this
want
is the man who's bought some construction.
Hey, they retard my road.
Yeah. Okay, so I see you agreeing there. So if you bought Wescoal and you've held it on for so long, rather stay.
Yeah, watch the share price goes to zero.
Almost as sure as you said it, yes.
But if I'd held it all this time, I'd probably be looking at it. But again, from our perspective, the quality, beyond the valuations, the quality factors are
Do you concur with that, Warren?
No, I support George Soros's philosophy. You want to buy a share, you want to buy a company that's been through a test not while it's still going through a test. So I think Wescoal's still
and
in
if you're
in,
holding it while
in the
it's
latter.
going through a test and you haven't sold out, do you still hold?
Probably not. In my book, no.
Take your 50% loss and go buy a case of wine.
Another company that perhaps has been tested, Telecoms and media company Huge Group, reported a headline loss per share of 15.41 cents for the year ended February from headline earnings per share of 8.79 cents previously. Total revenue declined to 523.7 million rand from 573.52 million rand, but the group reported an operating loss of 23.89 million rand from a prior profit of 3.28 million rand. Cash generated from operations during the current financial year amounted to 1.1 million rand.
Huge market cap, 73 million, not a huge market cap, huge's market cap. Price earnings minus 4.2, no dividend yield there. Tshepo, I'm going to come straight back to you with goodwill. They're sitting with 250 million in goodwill. Reading the results, there was obviously a lot of debate about it. The FD resigned in a huff the day before results were supposed to be released. They came out 28 days late with their results. 215 million goodwill on a 73 million rand market cap. I mean, the directors, they've got the story behind every reason why not, but I think that's a heck lot to be carrying on a balance sheet.
Sure. That's a key concern for us. I think we'd like to see that being written down quite a bit. Again, sure, I understand the justifications for it. Don't necessarily agree. So from our perspective, yeah, that is a very highly leveraged goodwill position.
Okay, so what would you like to see the company doing with the goodwill position, 215 million rand, and if they do write it down, then what are they left with?
Yeah, well, it's a case of more why aren't they writing it down? Because as far as I understood it, the write down should be they get paid a fee by the major mobile network operators. It's called a connection incentive bonus, and in 2009 and 2010. That amounted to 55 million and 58 million rand respectively, which you could bank as pretty much net profit. It went straight to the bottom line. This was reduced now to, in 2011, to 13.7 million. Okay, so it's basically 20% of what it was in the previous 2 years.
And we know termination rates coming down in South Africa also having an impact overall.
Yes, I don't know. It's not one of the companies we follow in detail, so I'm not sure if this incentive, the cessation in this incentives scheme or commission is related to the termination rates, but that's essentially 40 million rand a year, as I understand it, in profits that now do not cease to exist. There's no chance of them appearing again. And when I started looking at the reasons for why they had not written off the goodwill, I got into terms like multiplexing and a whole lot of other things that I didn't understand. So to me it looked like smoke and mirrors. And I think they should take a leaf out of the page of Wescoal and take it on the chin and give investors, I think, a fairer idea of what that balance sheet actually represents.
So, Paul, what about, they've been doing share buybacks everywhere from 70 cents to R1.20, share currently at around 20. They spent 5.3 million. I understand the tax reason for doing a share buyback rather than a dividend, but I can't often help thinking, give me the money, I'll go buy the shares if I like them. But the idea of buying all the way down, I'm not sure, particularly looking at the numbers and looking where they came out, not the best use for 5 odd million rand cash.
Sure. This is probably one of the rare occasions I'll disagree, in that we typically actually like to see management teams that buy back their own shares. Our research indicates that even in the South African context, those companies actually generally do well. So management has actually got an ability to view their own stock and actually have a pretty decent call overall. That's probably one of the few positives we take out of.
But even with a tangible net asset value of 2.7 cents?
It says that they believe in it, which is difficult to believe as an investor. So in this particular case, yeah.
So you see it as a positive, in other words, so they're buying back shares?
It would generally
the fact
be...
that you're uncomfortable with the 215 million rand in goodwill.
We generally see a share buyback as a positive.
So is positive enough for you to see the overall company as a positive? I mean, we mentioned some of the negatives. We've seen restructuring coming through for the likes of Centrocell and Huge Telecom.
Far from it, I think. We can't justify the valuations. And again, when you're looking at this, it's very difficult to value given that goodwill figure. So you don't really know what to do with it. So from our perspective, I guess it's difficult to actually get a fair value for this.
And the changes in the industry, the termination, core terminations, least cost routing, the huge upshifts in the industry make it even harder to look a year or 3 down the line in terms of earnings.
Yeah.
Eyeballs. This is one of the divisions of the company. I wasn't pointing at you, not because you're wearing glasses or anything there. Oh, you too, Simon. We're seeing this company growing extensively. This is what the company says. They're talking about new revenue streams. They're talking about a very prosperous future, in a sense. Are you buying into that story?
Well, there would be, and I think you wouldn't be entrepreneurs like these guys are if you weren't optimistic about your new business ventures. But whether it's going to offset the losses that are coming from these structural changes in the industry, where they're not getting paid these incentive bonuses and the other things that we've been discussing, remains to be seen. But from a personal point of view, it sounds quite interesting. Apparently, it allows a vendor of some type the ability to advertise when you're picking up your call to answer it, as far as I see. So. I don't know too much about advertising, but that sounds quite interesting, because you naturally look at your cell phone or your mobile phone when you're answering a call, or just before you start speaking. So I think it's a long way off from generating 40 million rands profits a year, which they need to try and make up in the interim. So yeah, always nice to see that they've got products in development and new ventures underway, but I'm not sold it's going to cover the cloth.
So huge telecoms, hot or not?
Not hot for me, no.
Tshepo,
not hot for me. Yeah.
It's also fascinating to note that most of the telecoms companies that are involved in the fixed and mobile space, it's all about voice, and we know that margins are being squeezed quite naturally there. So, Simon, there's a lot of restructuring and changes happening, I suppose, and we're looking for new and fresh revenue streams, and I think we can allude to the fact that MTN and Vodacom are pretty much doing the same.
And if we look at Vox, they've got their crystal Vox. There's a long way to go. Doug Reed will say to you it's a tough uphill battle, but they quantifiably seem to have a plan. I'm not seeing it with huge. I'm going not hot.